Hello, BookTube. Well, our week's mail starts off with a bang. Or rather, I should say, a box. So we've got a lot to go through here. Let's see how the week starts off mail-wise. It's just a pile of stuff. The postal truck rang the bell this time, but they didn't stick around. I got to the door in time to save this stuff from being drenched because it's pouring rain here in Boston, but not in time to talk to anybody about this now growing problem of these postal boxes. But sooner or later it will happen. I understand them not wanting to linger on a rainy morning like this. I don't know that we're going to get much jumping and biting out of the bean. She really just sort of turns off when it's raining. She just doesn't like it at all. She absolutely doesn't like going out in it. But she also doesn't like it even happening. All right, so the first one that we have here is from the New York Review of Books. Our friends at the New York Review of Books. And this is a translation of a French novel, a masterpiece of existentialist humor, by Emmanuel Beauvais. It's called My Friends, translated by Janet Luth. And I'm gonna resist the urge to say here, oh, you haven't read it? Huh. It's about a lonely layabout wounded in the First World War and surviving off a meager military pension, forswearing warm clothes and good food and other creature comforts in order to maintain his little independence. Despite living in poverty, he's mostly satisfied with his spare existence. All he wants, really, is to find himself a friend. And, okay, the author died in 1945. And wrote his whole life. He's been publishing popular novels under the pseudonym Jean Valois for several years, when Colette helped him publish a novel. This one. Colette helped him publish this under his own name. He continued publishing successful novels and a number of short stories until the Second World War, at which time he was forced into exile in Algeria. Okay. Okay, so this is yet another brainy classic from the New York Review of Books. It comes out in early May. I'm sure that, once again, a lot of you who are really up on your French literature are going to tell me in the comments field that it is a well-known classic and that you do love it and that lots of people have loved it. I love hearing about that. I love learning that sort of thing. It's not a well-known classic to me. But anyway, let's that was a decidedly sub-fusk start to the mail haul. Let's see where we go from there. Okay, we have a novel. Requisite hideous American cover. This is The Girl at the Door by Veronica Ramo. And it has a blurb by Garth Greenwell. Second blurb by Garth Greenwell in a week that we've seen. Is that I'm assuming that means this is a gay novel of some kind. Let's see here. Called the first post-Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein novel. Oh my God. Are we really dating things? Pre and post Harvey Weinstein? By Vanity Fair in Italy. Italy's Vanity Fair called it that. Veronica Ramo's slim, powerful English-language debut, okay, great, leaves no one blameless in an unflinching story of lust, power, and betrayal. While on vacation in an idyllic island called Miden, M-I-D-E-N, a seemingly aimless woman meets an attractive man and leaves her country to be with him. A few months later, newly pregnant and just beginning to feel comfortable in her lover's space, her life is upended when a girl arrives at the door. Slight and pretty, she discloses a drawn-out and violent affair she's had with her professor, the father of the woman's unborn child. All right, any of these characters going to have names? Okay, so provocative and unnerving, The Girl at the Door looks beyond the labels of perpetrator and victim and interrogates the scope of a scandal. And it apparently got praised in its Italian version. This is translated by Veronica Ramo. No, it's written by Veronica Ramo. It's translated by Stash Luxkiw, Luczkiw, O'Connor, I'm assuming. And it's from Black Cat. and it comes out in October. So not only do I not have to worry about it for several months, but I'm not inclined to worry about it for several months. All right, now I'm not even looking for a Steve book at this point, and it's an early point in the mail. I'm not even looking for a Steve book. I'm looking for a book, anything at all. I'm willing to go without a Steve book at this point if I can just claw my way off a leeward shore. So, okay, this is closer to the mark. I think we saw this already. This is by James Runcie. It's The Road to Grantchester. It comes out in early May, and I believe it's a prequel to the books that have been successfully adapted for the screen, for the small screen. Yeah, okay, this comes out in time for the debut of Season 4 of Grantchester on PBS. From the author of the series that inspired the primetime PBS Grantchester comes the eagerly anticipated standalone prequel, which will be a paperback original in early May. It'll look just like this. Oh, look at that. Okay, it's going to be a $17 trade paperback original in early May, but at the same time, it's going to be a $28 limited hardcover library edition, which is exactly what should happen here. That's exactly what should happen for everything. Not the $17 part. It should be $10 at most. $10. You would sell all the copies that you print if you printed it with a $10 price tag. You would sell all the copies that you print. You would think that would be the goal of a publisher: sell out of all the copies that you print. But it isn't, because there are remainder houses and there are pulp services and whatnot. You can actually make a substantial amount of money on the back end with unsold copies of a book. There's almost an incentive. If it's not going to be a runaway hit, if you're not going to go back for printing after printing after printing, there's almost an incentive to have leftovers. But one way or another, that double tier, the complete reverse of what we do now, print everything as a paperback originally, with a very limited edition hardcover print run for libraries and collectors. And that's fine. And just do that, so that ordinary people are paying a third of what they do now for a brand new release. So I'm glad to see this. I hope that it becomes more widespread. The year is 1938, and 18-year-old Sydney Chambers is dancing the quick step with Amanda Kendall at her brother Robert's birthday party. No one can believe on this golden evening that there could ever be another war. Okay, well, so this is, those of you who know Sydney from the novels or from the TV show will know this is his origin story, basically. This is a prequel to everything else. I don't think, judging from the setting, I don't think we could get an earlier book than this in his story. So it'll count as an origin story. All right, let's keep going here. This mail haul does have quite a few boxes, so I'm now placing a great deal of hope on them. So let's see. Okay, all right, it's another translation. This is by Marcus Malte, M-A-L-T-E, translated from the French by Emma Ramadan and Tom Roberge, and it's called The Boy. Looks like it's going to be another piece of historical fiction, the same type that we've been seeing a flood of in 2019. Let's see here. We're delighted to share with you the English language debut. Another English language debut. Wow, 2-in-1 mail haul. Of the author's The Boy, winner of the prestigious Prix Femina. Award-winning translator Emma Ramadan, who co-translated the book with her partner Tom Roberge, says this is one of the most exciting novels she has ever translated. Okay, so what is this thing? The boy does not speak. The boy has no name. The boy, raised half wild in the forests of southern France, sets out alone in the wilderness and the greater world. Without the experience of another person aside from his mother, the boy must learn what it is to be human, to exist among people, and to live beyond simple survival. Okay, the story begins in 1908 and spans 3 decades. And the book's jacket copy refers to it as an emotionally and historically rich exploration of family, passion, and war, from one of France's most acclaimed and best-selling authors. But it's his English language debut, and I don't think I've ever read him in French. So those of you who are in France, is this author well known? Is this book well known? Okay, so this comes out in... is that right? Oh my God. That's got to be a misprint, right? That has to be a misprint. It must be that this comes out in March of 2020. Let's see. Let's Maybe that isn't a misprint. Maybe it's just late getting me. Let's see. Do we have a date? This is also going to be a paperback original. Okay, no. No, this says it as well. Okay, this might be a March release. This might be a March release. We're well into April, so that'd be a little alarming, but I'll double check and see. I certainly missed it if it came out any earlier than this. All right, let's see. I'm assuming this will be another French book, another English language translation, another English language debut. Okay, all right. It's another French book. It's another English language debut. It's another translation. This is by Jean-Baptiste Delamo, and it is Animalia. And it's about pigs. Pigs have long captivated the literary imagination. The rotting pig head in Lord of the Flies, the revolting pigs in Animal Farm, the organ-producing pigoons in Margaret Atwood's Mad Adam trilogy, the way humans treat their smart, sensitive animals often reflects something about our society. And in this book, the award-winning literary sensation Jean-Baptiste Delamo puts pigs at the heart of a sweeping family saga that retraces the history of a modern peasant farm in France and its gradual industrialization. Eleanor grows up in the small French village during the 1890s. There is little heat or running water, and the child enjoys few comforts. Her father, a pig farmer, suffers from a terminal illness that leaves him unable to work, while her God-fearing mother rules the farm and family with an iron fist. Eventually, her father grows too ill to work, and Marcel, a distant cousin, takes over most of the physical labor. When World War I breaks out and the village empties, Eleanor gets a taste of the changes that will transform her world as the 20th century rolls on. Okay, so prior to writing this novel, the author visited an industrial farm, where he was shocked by the smells and sights of pigs piled on top of each other. This visceral experience eventually caused him to take up veganism and work with the French Law Association for Animal Protection. However, Animalia is not a manifesto. So you say. It certainly sounds like one. It is a portrait of a dysfunction that befalls a family accustomed to violence, a family whose mantra is, quote, "An animal is an animal, and a pig is not even that." Okay. So this is coming out in September. Kind of an attractive cover. I think it's going to be one huge book about how a family that is already being systematically and unbelievably cruel to pigs learns how to do that on a bigger and more industrial and mechanized scale. I'm not sure how much enjoyable that's going to be. I'll definitely read it. An animal is just an animal, and a pig is not even that. I have spent so many afternoons sprawled on the ground under the broad blue Iowa sky, just sort of shoulder to shoulder with an equally dozing and equally comfortable big pig, someone my own size, someone my own weight, who's just hanging out. And I tell you, I won't delay because we have a lot of mail to get through. But in the off moments, in the alternate moments of those beautiful afternoons, just laying out, looking at the sky with a friend. In the you don't just do that, like with a dog or a cat or even, God forbid, a person. You don't just do that. You occasionally intersperse that with conversation, with observations, with just nuzzling or company or whatnot, and there is no difference. I have done that with many species, with both genders of many species, and there is no difference between doing it with a human and doing it with a pig. None. That moment, that afternoon, that wonderful time spent just peacefully hanging out with a friend is no different. If you spend any time at all around them, you will see they are there. They are there on the inside, same as you. It strikes you sometimes with a fully grown pig more than it does with a fully grown dog or cat. So the book is going to be difficult to read. But anyway, let's move on. Now we've got cardboard to do. Cardboard might be a sign that we're leaving the territory of French debut translations. That would be nice. I don't know how many of them are on the horizon. Okay, all right, BookTube. I'm sensing a theme here. Okay. It's hard to believe, but I'm not going to fight it anymore. I'm sensing a theme. This next one is a finished copy. It's by John von Sothen, and it's called Monsieur Mediocre. One American learns the high art of being everyday French. So we are not going to stray from France. Americans have been obsessed with the French, Parisians in particular, for ages. We're fascinated by everything they do, from their parenting, dieting, and fashion sense to their healthcare system, beautiful language, and their 6 weeks of vacation every summer. In this book, Vanity Fair and Esquire writer John von Sothen gives us the lowdown on what it's really like to be an American living in Paris and how he's treated by the French. Okay, all right, well, to put it mildly, we have seen this book before. How odd the French are. Okay, it looks personable. it looks personable. This is going to be an entirely French mail haul, so I guess I'll have to get used to it. This comes out probably in May. Yes, in May. Okay, so we'll put that on the pile with 4 other French books. so we'll just move on. Let's see what this one is. Could be a translation of a French classic, or maybe a new French novel, or something like that. I'm not begrudging the French their literary tradition. It could easily happen. Let's see. Oh no. Okay. All right. Did Isaac Newton ever go to France? Okay. This is by Colin Pask. This is the finished copy, also a trade paperback, $18 from Prometheus Books, of Magnificent Principia. We saw this on this channel before. I did not know that the finished copy would be so nice. The finished copy is a third bigger than the advanced copy, and heavier and better put together. And this is just what the cover suggests. This is an enthusiastically optimistic tour of the Principia Mathematica, Sir Isaac Newton's great book. So now it comes out as a paperback. That's great. So those of you who like history of science, those of you who like the abstruse nature of Newton's thought, you can just go out and buy this thing. Because $17, it's highway robbery for this paperback, but still, it's only a couple of Starbucks visits for you. So you could easily tighten the belt just a bit and afford this. Dazzling in its reputation, Isaac Newton's Isaac Newton's Principia remains a mystery for many people. Few of even the most intellectually curious readers, including professional scientists and mathematicians, have actually looked in the Principia or appreciated its contents. Mathematician Colin Pask seeks to remedy this deficit with this accessible tour guide through Newton's masterpiece. Using the final edition of the Principia, Pask clearly demonstrates how it sets Newton's and our approach to science, how the framework of classical mechanics is established, how terrestrial phenomena like the tides and projectile motion are explained, and how we can understand the dynamics of the solar system and the paths of comets. And this is just the way to do it with a book like the Principia. This is just the way to do it, is to go through it with someone rather than just take the text bald in a Penguin Classic, for instance, and read it. You need someone who understands its setting better than you do, and also it would help if you have someone who understands the science and the math better than you do. And that's just what this book is. It comes out in paperback, I think next week, and this is a reprint. This book originally came out a couple of years ago, I think. 2013, this originally came out, and now it's got a new preface by the author and a new paperback edition. And as you can tell from my comments, I have read it. I read the advanced copy that I got, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think Isaac Newton is fascinating, just a fascinating figure. I wish that there were a popular edition of all of his other writings, especially his scriptural writings. They're fascinating. Crackpot, totally crackpot, but fascinating. There was a book, I did read a book on them, sort of like this, a guided tour of them, probably 40 years ago, but there's never been a paperback like this. I'm sure it would have less of an audience. So Magnificent Principia in a new paperback release. That's really nice. So I wasn't expecting that. All right, let's move on here. I am now 100% resigned to the fact that I'm not going to get a Steve book in this pile at all. So I'll just live with it. That not every mail haul has to have a Steve book. Okay. All right. Well, this almost comes close. This is by Bennett Brandreth, and this is The Assassin of Verona, a new William Shakespeare novel. We saw the earlier one of these. There's a whole bunch that they're now slowly coming out in America now, and this one is set in Venice in 1586. William Shakespeare is disguised as a steward to the English ambassador. He and his actor friends, Oldcastle and Hemming, possess a deadly secret, the names of the Catholic spies in England who seek to destroy Queen Elizabeth. Before long, the Pope's agents begin to close in on him, so fleeing the city... So fleeing the city is the player's only option, and they go to Verona. You can tell already what... I think we saw the advanced copy of this thing. You can tell already what these books are. They are just a feast of Easter eggs and dropped hints about future books. This is the young playwright. This is the thing that absolutely did not happen. And it's the best approximation that any Shakespeare scholar can come up with to anything happening at all. This is the best... this is the dramatization of a Shakespeare who is basically a sponge. He remembers every single turn of phrase, every single word, every single bit of abstruse trivia that he ever hears. Even when he's running for his life, even when he's hiding in a hayrick or whatever, he hears and remembers it all because he is a dictaphone. And we know the wink that the author is making to us in the course of the books is that all of these things will then reappear, mulched and reprocessed in the plays that will come world famous. That absolutely isn't true. But it's no better an idea than saying that he got it from dockside taverns and never forgot anything, or that he was taking notes at the meat market or whatever. None of it makes any sense. None of it is an adequate explanation for the erudition and the scholarship that is in the plays by a man who could not sign his own name. I'm not opening that can of worms again. But if you're going to make a fun quasi-fictional explanation for how he got all the experience that is in the plays, why not do it as a series of books like this? They're fun. Once you look past that, they're fun. I'm hoping the Daily Mail, the Times of London. Oh. The Daily Mail and the Times of London, but right in the middle of the back cover blurbs is me from the Christian Science Monitor. Wonderful. I did the last one, and I'm in British company, which always makes me feel a little classy. All right, a novel about Shakespeare. That'll definitely do as a start. So let's see. We've got a boat-sized one of these things here, and then we'll get to the boxes. This has got to be a finished copy, though. Okay, all right. This is by Simon Winder. And this comes out in April, I believe. Yeah, late April. This is Lotharingia, A Personal History of Europe's Lost Country, by the guy that did Danubia. Is that right? Yeah, he did Danubia. I confess, I haven't got to this yet. This is the finished copy of it. I haven't got to it yet because Danubia didn't please me. And this is obviously set along the same lines. It's obviously meant to duplicate the success, the small-scale success that Danubia had. And that worries me because... an author who's not going to stray far from the template that got him where he is going to reproduce that template, and the template was Danubia, and it didn't interest me at all. So I've been sort of dragging my heels. But as usual, when I get the finished copy, that all changes. Then you've got to read the book. Yeah, okay, this is the exact same kind of thing as Danubia. The name Lotharingia may not immediately ring any bells, but most readers are no doubt familiar with the land it comprised. In 843 CE, which stands for Christian Era or Common Era or Current Era, but it's not the Common Era except that it's united by Christianity, and it is a designation that is meant to be exactly interchangeable with AD, which stands for Anno Domini, the year of our Lord, the year belonging to our Lord, the year, in other words, all the years after Christ belong to the Lord. I guess there's a contingent of people out there who will be offended by AD 843. So instead we need 843 CE, the Common Era. And what makes it the Common Era? Oh, I don't know. Carbon dating? It's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. The grandsons of Charlemagne met in France to divide the territory Charlemagne had assembled into his empire. Lothair I received the lands between what became France and Germany, stretching from the North Sea down central Italy in the south. Lothair's lands were in turn divided among his own sons, with Lothair II receiving everything above Italy and Provence. Composed of the modern France and Germany borders, as well as Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, and part of Switzerland, this region was dubbed Lotharingia, and it is to this region that Simon Winder turns his keen focus in his fabulous new book. Okay. I will give it a try. It could be that I am older now. Maybe I would like Danubia now if I read it. I will certainly read this. About this country that doesn't exist anymore. There's a legend of a man called Lear, with whom I have a lot in common. Both of us are old, and both of us have 3 children we adore, and there it ends. He cut his kingdom into bits. I can't do that. All of England, half of France. I'm the greatest power in 1,000 years, and after me comes John. All right, so now we're at the boxes. I confess I have given up hope, but we're going to try. And, it's not even all doom and gloom. I mean, there's a new Shakespeare novel in hardcover that has my blurb on the dust jacket in some pretty good company. Of course, there's a downside even to that because my blurb doesn't have my name on it. But that's okay. You and I know who it is. You can look it up online and see who it is. So, okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We have a Steve book. Finally. It's not French. It's not a translation. Oh my. Okay. This is by Ray Locker, and it is called Haigs Kuh. How Richard Nixon's closest aide forced him from office. And there on the cover you have Richard Nixon. You have Alexander Haig, and lurking in the background as always, you have Henry Kissinger. And look at that desk. A card caddy, a rotary phone, not the hint of any electronics. No electronics probably anywhere in the building. And this is an incident that those of you who have perhaps exhaustively studied Nixon's presidency, as I have, will know quite well. You know what the book's about. It'll just be a question of what kind of a job the author does. But for those of you who perhaps did not obsess about such time, either when it was happening or since, this comes out on the 1st of May. When General Alexander Haig returned to the White House on May 3rd, 1973, he found the Nixon administration in worse shape than he had imagined. President Richard Nixon, re-elected in an overwhelming landslide just 6 months earlier, had accepted the resignation of his top aides, Chief of Staff Haldeman and Domestic Policy Chief John Ehrlichman. Just 3 days earlier, Haldeman and Ehrlichman had enforced the president's will and protected him from his rivals and his worst instincts for 4 years. Without them, Nixon stood alone, backed by a staff that lacked gravitas and confidence as the Watergate scandal snowballed. Nixon needed a savior, someone who would lift his fortunes while keeping his White House from blowing apart. He hoped that savior would be his Deputy National Security Advisor, Alexander Haig, who he appointed Chief of Staff. But Haig's goal was not to keep Nixon in office, it was to remove him. In Haigs Kuh, Ray Locker uses recently declassified documents to tell the true story of how Haig orchestrated Nixon's demise, resignation, and subsequent pardon. A story of intrigues, cover-ups, and treachery, this incisive history shows how Haig engineered the quote-unquote soft coup that ended our long national nightmare and brought Watergate to an end. Oh my, okay. And the author is a former Washington Enterprise editor at USA Today, where he directed investigative reporting out of the Washington Bureau. And his work as a reporter and editor has been nominated for 2 Pulitzer Prizes. Okay. All right. Let's see what he has to say. I will gladly see what he has to say. I smile on works like this. I know this period, recently declassified documents or not. I know this period inside and out. And if you are going to make a firebrand contention, a revisionist contention about some detail of the history of this time period, keep in mind the only reason why any of this is happening is because it was then and instead of now. Because it never would have crossed Nixon's mind. There was no Attorney General Barr at the time. Or there wouldn't have been any resignations. There wouldn't have been anything necessary. Nothing would have happened. Nixon would simply have stayed in office. Despite the Watergate investigation, he would simply have stayed in office. He would have gone to his base and said, the whole investigation into me is a frame-up job by the Jews. And his base would say, you bet it is, and that would be that. It wouldn't have been anything driving him from office. But if you're an author and you are claiming that you are looking at recently declassified documents in order to put forward a firebrand new interpretation of the events, okay, fine, that's fine. But some of us were paying very close attention while this was happening, very close attention. And yes, classified documents would be things that we wouldn't have been able to see. But I'm talking very close attention. Some of us were paying daily, hourly attention, new editions, updates all the time, and have read every book that's come out since. So, you're not going to be able to rely too much on those unclassified documents. You're going to need to make your case. Can't wait. Can't wait. In fact, I probably won't wait. I'll probably read it first of all the books we've seen so far. And now we have one left. We have one more book, and then we'll be done. For now, anyway. There could be more mail today. Let's see what this next one is. Okay. All right. This is the finished copy. We've seen this already. This is also a Steve book. This also comes out in April, I believe. No, early May. This is by Phillips OBrien, and it is the second most powerful man in the world. It's about Admiral Leahy. And it's now, this sheet comes with blurbs, including one from Madeline Albright. And this is all about, this is the first big biography of Admiral Leahy that's ever been done. Certainly, there was, I think I read one book about him that was mainly military. This is a very different thing, as you can tell from the title. This is political. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt needed a single person at his side whom he could trust unreservedly. With multiple advisors to choose from, he summoned Admiral Leahy to the White House and made him the first presidential chief of staff, although it was a position far more powerful than the one today, especially today. Soon, Leahy was the highest-ranked officer in United States history to that point, with enormous influence on how Anglo-American alliance fought the war on two fronts. Yet readers today understand the magnitude of his power, and yet few readers today understand the magnitude of his power or his contributions to the defeat of Germany and Japan. And in this new book, it's meant to change all that. It's going to get written up quite a bit. The unfortunate thing, or fortunate, depending on how you think of book sales, is that this is coming out right around the same time as Nigel Hamilton's new book, which is on FDR during World War II. So I'd be willing to bet that if this gets reviewed, most of the reviews will be the last 200 words of a double review with that book, which for some unknown reason, the publisher's allowed to be called War and Peace. I'd be willing to bet that this will be scooped up with that. It's the thing that book section editors do. They don't have much space. They want to cover as many books as possible. They figure a reviewer who is going to be conversant with FDR enough to review the Hamilton book will probably take this and might shoehorn it in. That could happen. I might do it myself. I confess I might do it myself, as long as we're telling the truth between us here. I might do exactly that myself. I have 850 words for the Nigel Hamilton book. But this is really important. It's not enough if you're in a general interest newspaper. This is simply not going to do it as a review on its own. There just isn't enough general interest in FDR's chief of staff during World War II. But as an addendum, there is certainly always interest in FDR during World War II. So as an addendum to that review, you get a chance to sing the praises of a book. I might do it. I feel like a lot of people will. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on the Wall Street Journal. I'll keep an eye on the Washington Post. Keep an eye on these places to see who does what with this. But in this book delves into the life of Admiral Leahy, exploring his rise up the naval chain of command, his unprecedented role in wartime Washington, and his enormous impact on FDR's presidency and on World War II. What does this give me any hint of? Using a wide array of primary sources, O'Brien captures the essence and elusive importance of the stern-faced, salty sailor whose career spans steamships to atom bombs. The second most powerful man in the world is an absorbing look at a man who did more to shape World War II than almost any other. And the Phillips OBrien is a professor. His first name is Phillips. Phillips OBrien is a professor of strategic studies at the University of St. Andrews at Fife in Scotland. Born and raised in Boston, he graduated from Trinity College in Hartford before working on Wall Street for 2 years. He earned a PhD in British and American politics and naval policy before being selected as Cambridge University's Mellon Research Fellow in American History and a Draper's Research Fellow at Pembroke College. Good Lord. Okay, that's a pretty impressive CV. So he was born and raised in Boston. That's the part where I stopped paying attention. We shall see. I have already read this, and I thought it was magnificent, just incredible. I will gladly read it again, gladly. So this comes out in the first week of May, and it ends on a high note. Good, because this mail haul was sorely in need of some. So this is a lot of stuff. We have a bedrock basis of Steve books. We have the second most powerful man in the world. Would not have called it that. I mean, the guy put his life and his reputation on the line for America for decades. And as that pub sheet told us, he shaped the course of American history for a solid decade. I don't see any reason why this book could not be called Admiral Leahy, and this be the subtitle. But no, instead the book's subtitle is its title, but that's okay. Then Haigs Kuh, which I did not get an advance copy, as far as I know, so I'm going to just blaze right through it. Then Lotharingia, a big iteration of the author's sort of exploration of these vanished countries in European history. Then The Assassin of Verona, with a very nice Christian Science Monitor blurb on the back. You can check that out at your bookstore. Then Magnificent Principia, in a nice, big, durable trade paperback, a guided, very knowledgeable tour through a seminal work of scientific writing. Then Monsieur Mediocre, a kind of rollicking look at an American in Paris. I have a feeling that this book may be winging its way out west. Then Animalia, a French novel about industrial pig farming. The Boy, a French novel about a feral boy suffering from the shocks of World War I. Then The Road to Grantchester, a French novel about the origin story of an English vicar. Then The Girl at the Door, another French novel debut. And finally, My Friends by Emmanuel Beauvais, another French novel. It's French novels all the way down. so there you go. That was a nice big mail haul to start the week. A little strange one, but you expect that here. So I'm going to wrap this up. This video has gone way too long, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.